Hello, so doing a live stream. Hopefully everybody gets a notification. Sorry, I'm about 5 minutes late. I was meant to be starting 5 minutes ago, but I was reassembling this, which is really, really cool because it's in working condition and I've wanted one of these for a while. But they were quite hard to find, and then it's one of those weird things where a load have turned up on eBay at once. So whether or not it's Switzerland's got rid of a load or just a load of private sellers decided to sell theirs at the same time, I don't know. But this is a very, very well-made Swiss Geiger counter, or a Swiss, like, basically dose meter. Uses 2 Geiger Muller tubes, not evening, afternoon markers, afternoon is the live era. So how this works is it's a bit like a Soviet DP5 sort of series Geiger counter, except for it basically uses the tubes internally, so there's no probe. It's designed so you can plug a probe into it. All right, Richard? It only that one, Marcus, is the one with the source in. That's not my one. How the source would have worked, that's what I was taking it apart. The source lever would be there, and that would swing the internal strontium-90 source over where the tubes are inside there, because that's like the window for the beta window. So it puts the source between there and the GM tubes. But my one doesn't have a source on it, so it's background. But yeah, the ones with a source in read high, obviously, because they've got a strontium-90 source. Because the idea was, obviously, that's your on button. That's where the probe would go if you had a version with the probe attached rather than the internal meters. That's where the batteries go, and that's the swivel switch for the different ranges. So basically, first you've got the battery test mode. Let me flick this light off so less reflections on the screen. So yeah, that's the battery test. So as you can see, it's passed that with flying colors because it's gone fully off the thing. So that's fine. That means the battery test is working. Then you've got the obviously high Rontgen range. I'll put the backlight on. So that goes from basically hundreds of millirontgens all the way up to 100 Rontgen per hour. Then you've got the middle range. Don't know if that's quite, there we go. You've got the middle range, and that is 0 millirontgen per hour at one end, and then it goes to 1,000 millirontgen at the other end, so 1 Rontgen. So basically what you do is probably use this range for the low end, or like the very high millirontgens, and then, use that range when you're properly into it. And then the last setting, although I might have misaligned it when I put it in, annoyingly. Let's have a look at the lever. Oh, no, there we go. That's fine. It's just the angle the camera was looking at. This is the, don't know if you can see it very well there. I'll try and get it a bit straighter when I take it out and put it back in again. This is the millirontgen range, but for some reason, I don't know if it's just a thing where it needs shaking. Ah, there we go. It's gone into place now. I know why it is. It's because when I hold it this way up, it slides down because it's meant to be read like this. But anyway, this one, if I hold it here, you might be able to see that's correct. And again, probably flipping it around the wrong way doing that. Yeah, but anyway, it works fine when you look down at it. This goes from basically background radiation to 10 millirontgen per hour. It was, Marcus, when I bought it from a German seller. It was about 150 quid, I think, roughly. 140, 150 quid. And that was with the currency conversion. And I bought it Tuesday and it got here today. So they were very good with the postage. They only had one for sale, though. All right, okay, 9. However, if I was getting another one, I would look for one that has the little lever there for the strontium-90. Because obviously the strontium-90 was designed so when you're on the middle band, when that gets into place, there we go. It was designed so when you're on the middle band, it would basically be sort of medium to high end of the middle band, so you knew both GM tubes are working. They seem all right, Brightol, but again, they're the old rubber NBC suit, so whether or not you like them is sort of your own, prerogative. Because some people hate those sort of things, some people really like them. But yeah, this is a very, very good Geiger counter. Yeah, the things align properly when you're looking down at them. Obviously, if you hold it up, they're not sort of, springing enough to stay in position. That's cool, Richard. And you okay? Okay, 9, if I didn't say hello. But yeah, if you're looking for one, Marcus, they are called a Landis & Gyr EMB3 meter. Your best bet for finding them is actually go on ebay.de. German eBay. But yeah, apparently the strontium-90 sources in these were really well shielded because of the fact that when the strontium-90 bit was, not in the way, you couldn't get a reading on it. But yeah, what it would do is it would just put it between this bit and the internal GM tubes that obviously sit there and there. It's not an ionization chamber, although that looks like an ionization chamber sort of bottom. It is a Geiger counter. It's got one basically high-end GM tube and one low-end GM tube. But yeah, it's really well built, because if you think this came out in the 1960s, this unit. For the 1960s, this is fucking phenomenal. Because, you know, it covers background to you'll be dead in a few hours levels of radiation. Because, you know, if it's going off scale at 100 Rontgen, you should not be there, you know. Because I think for regular infantry, you don't need a Geiger counter that goes, you know, as high as that. And again, this is just literally designed. So, you know, you wear it like that around your neck. I'm going to sort the straps out because they're a bit twisted. You know, and then you can look down at it and get your reading. I might put some brighter bulbs in it, actually, because of how good this is. So yeah, press the button in, look. And then what will happen with this range is you can see the little, do you see the light flashing there? On the left, there's a light that will flash when it counts. That's the background radiation count. Don't know if that's going to show up on the camera. It's got like a little orange light that flashes in the left corner every time it counts radiation. And then obviously at the moment, it's pretty, you know, low on the scale because of the fact that this room's safe. But I'll get a source so we can actually have a look at it. I'll just get some automite. That will be good enough. What I want to do with it, just to show you in the stream. So yeah, let's get the automite crystals. And again, it's not going to be very well in frame because of how this looks on here. If I put that like that and then press the button in, where's the button? There it is. See that light's coming on continuously? So that might go off scale on that one. Yeah, pretty much. So then if we go to the next scale, where's it going to end up? It's going to be low end of this scale, isn't it? Between 0, is that 0 and 20? 0 and 20, yeah. So a bit more than 10, probably not 20. All right, Braden. I was just explaining it, so I'll go back over it quickly. But it's really nice for a 1960s Geiger counter. So under here, this is your beta window. You've got 2 GM tubes. You've got your high-end and low-end one from background radiation to your dead levels of radiation. So it's got a nice big fixed, you know, flap on there, you know, to stop the any radiation getting in if you only want to read gamma or, you know, really hard beta radiation. Battery compartment for 2 D cells, range selection switch with the lovely clunky old you know, thing that the range actually changes. It's got basically, it's one of those ones where you have to keep it held on. That would have a probe in there if it was one of the variant models where, you know, they had an actual wire coming out of this bit connected to a probe. But this particular model is just, if I open that up, oh, sorry, no, that's the battery compartment, that side, sorry. This side is where the probe would go. So, yeah, that would be where your probe would be if you had a model where the probe was connected to the circuit board as opposed to having the internal GM tubes. And that's your on button there. So basically, you select a range, so you do the battery test first. There's the battery test. If I hold that down. Yeah, the battery test isn't working. Maybe I didn't put the cap on properly when I was playing around with it. Let's try it again. I reckon I might need some new D cells for it though, because I did just put some old D cells in it. Yeah, unless I've broken it somehow already. Yeah, Dominic, this is for regular infantry because it even gives you a guide to Rontgens on there. So although, again, this isn't in English, I'm sure any of you that speak German can get a good idea of this. But basically, it's telling you what ranges are safe, what ranges you need to be cautious at, and what ranges you seriously need to be worried at. So, you know, it's color-coded, green, yellow, red. So unless you're colorblind, it's pretty good. And 3 Rontgen per hour, if you're wondering about 3.6 Rontgen, is in the range of you need to be worried. So not great, not terrible, but is in the more terrible section. Yeah, well, it's Swiss, so it's basically all the good bits of German design without the shit bits. So compared to like the German counters of the time, this is a lot more compact and works a lot better and way tougher because it's literally like a metal box with everything in. But yeah, the idea was that you just literally, you know, have it hanging from your neck and you could just hold the button down to get a reading. It's like, you know, the Soviet DP63. It's very similar to that one. It just goes up to higher and lower ranges. But that's the closest kind of Geiger in terms of, you know, comparison of how they were worn, where you just look down at it and press a button. Anyway, let me take the batteries out. It doesn't produce ionizing radiation, Brandon. It just overloads Gauss. It's hard to explain, but it's not ionizing. No, it just tricks certain things that measure ionizing radiation. But it's to do with high voltage. But yeah, the battery compartment, a really good design as well. It's got a big chunky thing you can grip there. You swivel it until the key bit goes into that bit. There we go, and then it pops out. But it won't do that if you don't want it to. You have to have it at the right angle. And then, yeah, it just takes 2 D cells. Yeah, and then, obviously, when you have the batteries in, all you do is put that in there, twist it, and then you're ready to go. Hard to say, okay, now, right, it's Geiger Muller tubes in there, or in that bit. Solid state-wise, I guess it depends on if they've retrofitted anything. I mean, it's an old sort of circuit board, but this one does look a bit more modern than some of the others. But in all honesty, I'd not be the right person to ask about solid state components on some of these versus it's a lot more of an old-fashioned circuit board than the modern one, but whether or not anything in there has been changed, because I didn't look too closely at all the circuit board. I was just seeing where the Geiger Muller tubes were when I opened it and everything else. But yeah, so there's that. So I need to change the straps on it. Well, not change them, but, you know, undo them because they've got the strap skewer, which really annoys me, whoever put the straps on this. It came in like a Bakelite plastic briefcase thing that was cool as well. I did find a service manual hidden inside here as well when I opened the case up, so I've now put the service manual in the briefcase. And it was really, really accurate on all the service tests. You know, it was like 1 or 2% out any other times they were calibrating it. Where generally with a lot of these, when you see the calibration documents, they're really, really far out. So I guess it just used really good resistors and everything in there to not, you know, have issues with that. Yeah, really, really good. So if anybody's interested in these, they are called EMB3 Geiger counters, but your best bet for finding them is to go on ebay.de. Let's see if I can manage it for you while we're doing a stream. And probably, I mean, I don't know what the word is for Swiss. Is it like Schweiss or something? Or is that like shit in German? I don't know. The EMB3 and... Right, EMB3 on its own doesn't come up with it. Now let me put Geiger in and see if that finds it. But yeah, there's one here for 160 euros. Here we go. Let me link to this. So this is the exact same one I've got, except for mine came with a briefcase. But yeah, there you go. If I put this in the stream. Right, there you go. So it's basically one of these. Mine came with a briefcase and everything, and it was a bit cheaper than this one. But this one also looks like it doesn't have the strontium-90 source either, because if you look at the first picture, the strontium-90 lever would be below the first lever. See where there's like a little black plug? That was where they used to have a lever there for swiveling that over the ionization chamber. Although they have put a bit of Velcro on this one, so you can keep the thing closed and open, I guess, a bit easier. But yeah, that's the meter anyway. I'd say for that money, it's pretty good. I mean, obviously, you can get modern Geiger counters that are probably a bit better, but how tough this thing is compared to, you know, it uses D-cell batteries, which are pretty standard. All right, see you, Marcus, if you're off. Oh, I just made it private, Max. I'll put it back on public. It was a members one anyway, wasn't it? But I made it private for the time being, just because of the stuff we were discussing in it. Just because you don't know who's going to end up rewatching those. But all right, Mike. Well, that's a matter of opinion, Brandon, but I would say the FAO is better. But bear in mind, I've not shot either. It depends what you're considering, but the FAO was more used. And generally, most people who have shot both say the FAO is more comfortable to shoot. But if it was a competent shooter using either, you know, and you were the target, you'd be dead. So it doesn't really matter. So yeah, I'll show Mike when he gets back on, but you'll find this interesting, Max. This is, I've taken the batteries out. I'm going to fully charge up 2 D cells and put some rechargeable ones in. It was working fine on my AA batteries until they were sort of running low on juice. All right, what I'll do, Hype, let me see if I can find some batteries with charge, because the old AA's, the 2 old D cells I had in there when I put them in were pretty low. Let me see. I should have something in here that's got D cells in. I can just take them out of. I'll take them out of one of my MD3s. I don't know what the charge situation is like. I'm going to do a battery check. Right. So let's do a battery check on this. And according to this, at least the battery test on this sits within the acceptable range. Right, so if I turn that off, I'll get the batteries out of this thing, and then I know they'll be good. Although there might only be one D cell in this. I don't know if I've got the lamp. I'll tell you what, let me keep that one like that. I think what I want to do is get the D cells out of the other one that's on the shelf, which is going to be a bit awkward. I think this one's got batteries in. Yeah, that's doing a good battery check. I think this one might have the batteries in for the bulb as well. Yeah, where'd you get those hype? Because I was looking on Amazon earlier, weirdly, for lithium batteries for torches, and I could only find ones that were like in massive sets with a recharger that were really expensive, and I just want to buy a couple. Or is it one of those things where you can't just buy a couple on their own? Yeah, ideally that's the sort of thing I'd want, you know, massively long-lasting batteries just for that sort of thing. Right, my Swiss Army knife is in the other room because I was using it earlier. Do I have another screwdriver handy? You can use a coin on this, but my wallet's not in here either. Actually, I've got this, haven't I? This will do. Actually, I've just spotted it. Oh, crap. So I've knocked the keyboard, but it hasn't ended the stream. Good. Right, let me go back to the stream. All right, cool. Yeah, that's a good point. I'll look on AliExpress in a bit, actually. I'll do it after the stream. Oh, I haven't even got rechargeables in this one. I told a lie. Oh, yeah, I can't use the one for the lamp because it's the wrong type of battery. I remembered that. This is the one where I've got a modified one for the lamp in here. Why not, Joe? Oh, there you go. So normally you can find them quite easily online. Paskets. Anyway, let me put that one back. That's upside down. Brilliant. Actually, that will sit up there now because the little arrays of things behind there. Right, that's that. Tell you what, I will just take another. Actually, let me just try the batteries again in this one because it might just be that one of the batteries got a bit loose because it passed the battery check well the first time. The only thing with this one, Hype, is when you have it on the lowest range, if you hold it like this to the camera, it goes a bit off slant. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's basically because it's like one of those spring ones like the EMB3. Yeah, the Brody's a really good helmet brand, and it was one of the first steel helmets of World War I. There's nothing wrong with a Brody. Anybody who doesn't like the Brody is a retard who doesn't actually know anything about helmets. Now, I know I'm being a bit offensive there, but the thing is, the Brody, for what it was designed for, was very good and very cheap to make. Again, like, Brodies aren't good as when you consider them for modern helmets, but when it was back in the day, like a very quick helmet to get out and save soldiers' lives, yes, the Brody was good. Let's do a battery check on this again. Right, so that's that. Battery. Yeah, battery check. Oh, I think it's going a bit now. Yeah, these batteries aren't got much life in them. They're certainly not getting to where the needle needs to go. Look, so yeah, let's take these out. These are no good. So yeah, I don't know which of these batteries it is that's lower. Like, there's a way of finding out. What's the dates on them, actually? Best before 2023. Both of them are 2023. Right. Probably from the same set, in all honesty. But let's try mixing one of these with one of these. I know they say don't mix batteries. That's stupid. If they're the same voltage, it doesn't matter. Right. Let's do a battery test now. Right, Stug. Ah, there we go. Flying colours. Right. So I'll put this on my bin pile. I recycle the batteries properly, but you know, I do need to bin that because that's really low. Right. Okay. So here's your ranges. Battery check mode, which is pretty self-explanatory. Look, there's a battery check. Right. Rontgen per hour mode. Let me make this full screen so it hopefully doesn't reflect as much. If that focuses. Okay, then there's, so this is where if you're holding it up, that is perfectly in frame, but when you hold it this way, they sort of slide out of position a bit. But that's the milli-Rontgen per hour mode, or hundreds of milli-Rontgen, I should say. You know, above background, basically, because 20 milli-Rontgen is sort of the lowest number on that dial, going all the way up to a Rontgen. And then, yeah, this one is completely fine to my eyes if you're looking down at it, like you're meant to look at it like that. But when you hold it up like that, it kind of just dips a bit on the scale. But this one is the so again, you can't really show that very well with the webcam, but this is the sort of background range one. So if I press the thing, look, on this one, you'll see that the needle doesn't do much. You can see it flashing when it counts. So every time it gets a count, it flashes. There we go. But this one obviously doesn't show much at the moment because, you know, background radiation. All right, Albanian. But yeah, so it's typically Swiss, you know, everything it does very well. Yep, and again, if you're a soldier who knows nothing about radiation, there's your color-coded chart that tells you how bad the radiation levels are. Yeah, it'd be cooler if it had a speaker on it, don't get me wrong, but other than the fact there's no speaker on this, amazing. And what is cool is, see that bit here, this bit on the bottom, this is so it's possible if you could have these meters with a probe on as well, you know, that did the same ranges, because I assume it was the probe had the 2 GM tubes on it. And this one just has like a little plastic insert bit to protect the circuit boards, and then that's just obviously done up because there's no probe on it. But yeah, that's how it would work with a probe if you had the probe attached. Without the probe, basically what this is, hype, the easiest way of thinking of it, think of a DP5 but with internal GM tubes, and there's your big, nice, sturdy beta shield. So, you know, that's the foil bit that's underneath to allow beta through. That's it closed. Yeah, the flashing light's only on the lowest band height, but I assume that's because it's basically, once you're in the hundreds of milli-Rontgens or whatever, you know you're being exposed to radiation. You don't need to see how often it's counting. Yeah, well, exactly, Stug. Swiss stuff is German stuff, just better in every way. Oh, it'd be the other way around, wouldn't it, Dominic? Yellow would be not terrible. Green would be not great. Because in theory, if you're being exposed to, you know, that sort of stuff. But yeah, to be honest, the green range is, this does do background radiation. So if I put it on the lowest range, you know, and press the button in now, you know, at the lowest range, I'll see the light flash now and again. But other than that, you know, the needle barely moves off the 0, you know, because the first proper number on there is 0.2. But then, I can, as I showed some of you earlier, and I'll show hype. My really strong sources aren't in this room, but I will later on, when I do a video on it, test it with that Chinese SR90 source, because I want to see if you can overload the thing on this one. So if I open this up, put the Autonite there on top, and then press the button in. And I know the scale is going to be kind of skew-whiff on here, but still. So we're going off the scale on scale 1. Let's go to scale 2. And you see that the needle... Well, Max, I don't dispose of them full stop. They go safely in a safe. But yeah, I certainly wouldn't rip check sources out of a Geiger counter or whatever and throw them in the bin, which sadly is actually done on the national level in some countries. Like the amount of photos you see of old like radiation gear just in landfills. You know, it's sad to see surplus in landfills. It's even worse when you consider that the check sources are still there. So that's that. But yeah, the you know, all my check sources just go in the safe, or they go on a display if they're like not very active. I won't say on here, Dominic, just because it's a public stream, and if you know all the shit I've had to put up with, we won't say on here. It's legal, I'll put it that way. I'm not going into it. Just because of the fact that, you know, like I said, there'll be people that will not know anything about the sources, or maliciously, knowing that the source is legal, phone the police up and say I've got something illegal. Then I have to deal with them coming out here to confirm that I've not got anything illegal, and it's a waste of everybody's time, you know. So, but yeah, the point is everything I've got is legal, you know, but certain old counters do come with some quite interesting sources. So, you know, if you're disposing of them, you need to dispose of them properly. Oh, yeah. Well, Max, annoyingly, mine doesn't have the source in it. I wish it did, but that dickhead threw away... I don't know if he wants me to call him a dickhead, but he threw away the best source. I must dispose of it properly. I did leave a comment on this video explaining exactly what the Geiger counter was, because he didn't know. But, yeah, it's how it would work if you weren't watching when I was showing it. On some models of this, I guess they removed it at some point. That was where the lever was, which would swing the strontium-90 source in front of the Geiger tubes. So how it would work, you'd have a little lever there. But this one, that's been removed. They've just put a plastic tab in it. There'd also been something there by the look of it, because they've got that one sealed with a little plastic tab as well. But, yeah, although he didn't measure it in this video, because his Geiger counters weren't good enough, the check source inside was about between 100 and 200 milliroentgen per hour, from what I can establish from people who had them with the check sources and actually bothered to measure them with decent Geiger counters. Oh, I personally don't care, Joshua. You can still go there. You get a visa, like everybody does normally anyway. But at the moment, there's Corona, so, you know, there's not travel anyway. You shouldn't be going on holiday at the moment due to Corona. Yeah, I've got ones, Max, that are actually stronger than the ones that come with this, but they would have been a pretty good check source, actually. You know, a bit of strontium-90 that was, you know, 100 to 200 milliroentgen. But yeah, like I said, I would actually really recommend these, just simply because of the fact how well made they are. But yeah, like I said, other than the fact if you're trying to hold it up that way and see it, where it doesn't quite work. But otherwise, you know, if you like DP5s and you like DP63s, it's kind of like more of a range than a DP63. But, you know, it's probably DP5 sized, I say. Yeah. I don't know what you're on about, Brandon. Why are you saying is something inaccurate if I find them accurate? I don't even have a 177 rifle. Not in this room, Max. My cesium is with the other stuff, but my cesium is a quarter of a microcurie. It is tiny because it was, you know, it was the one I had to buy from America, pay all the tax and the expensive postage to have it legally sent over, and then it's disappointingly weak. Shows the gas mask. Look, there's some in the back right there. I'm not talking about gas masks at the moment. We're talking about this. Well, 177 air rifles are fine, Nick, in the UK at 12 foot-pounds, or are you meaning specific things? Yeah, there's plenty of videos on my channel full of gas masks, because it's what not most of the videos are about. But, you know, I've just got this expensive new toy. I'll be filming a video on this to go on Sunday, and what I'll also be doing, but it's not in this room, so I can't show you, is I got a really nice little flashlight that goes on my keyring, so I want to do a video on that because of how useful it is. Well, there for that, Floof, and I think it's just for the people who want to buy it but don't want a very strong source. Well, Max, I've not tried it with any really strong sources yet, but I think how it used to work with oversaturation was, I can try it with the lamp in a minute, the plasma ball. I'll see what that does, but what I think it was designed to do with the internal check source is it would overload the lowest GM tube, in the green range, and it would then go to basically the high tube at the high end of the yellow range. And I think the idea for that was so you could basically tell, if both tubes are working. Yeah, but you can't order that internationally, Floof. That's the annoying thing. If you're buying internationally, they'll sell you the weakest source, and that's it, at the highest price. Which is why I've said if I'm going to get any more in the future, I'll literally get an American to buy it and send it me, because we won't actually be breaking any rules if we do it through the proper postage channels. But it means I can actually buy it and not get ripped off. Because it's the fact it cost me $70 shipping for it to literally come in a cardboard box from them. And, also I had to pay like £30 tax on it after it came. So it ended up costing me over $200 for a quarter of a micro Curie. How do you mean, Brandon? That's a bit of a weird question. Do you mean LSD? Groovy. Or do you mean something else? That's cool. Just don't use the old green filter that comes with a GP5 for obvious reasons. It did have some of those packaging bits of foam in it, Nick. So they didn't cheap out on the little packaging chips or whatever they call them. So why are we bringing this up randomly? Seems a very, very strange question to ask. I'm sort of considering blocking you now, because that's sort of the question where it's like, oh, can you answer this so I can report you for something? No, it wasn't that type, Nick. They were the type that poison you if you ate them. My favourite subject in school was probably actually history, but yeah, really don't ask questions like that, because basically at the moment, if you don't know, I keep getting like doxxed and I keep getting false police reports made against me. So if you're the sort of person that asks a dodgy question, I'm just assuming you're doing it maliciously, so you're going to get a block. All right, Mike, I was just explaining to somebody not to ask dodgy questions at the moment because of all of the shit that's been going on. I'm very close to just instantly blocking people if they ask weird stuff at the moment. And again, it's a load of dickheads that ruin it for everybody, really, isn't it? But that's good. Haven't you had an M56 before? Oh, you have one, but it's beaten up. But yeah, M56s are really nice, aren't they? Yeah, just be very careful with what you say. No, this is not my bedroom. If you're buying them, Floof, they're about 150 to 200 euros on German eBay. You can only really find them on ebay.de, which is where I got mine. Mine came with the briefcase, though. It comes in and like some other bits. But yeah, there is one on there. I'll put the link in again for you at the moment. So there you go. I can't see the comment now. Oh, it's Floof, yeah. There we go. If you want to get one, there is one there, but that also doesn't have the SR90 check source with it. Because basically, if it had the check source with it, you'd see a little lever there for swinging it in and out of position. Oh, you retracted your own message. So I didn't see what you're saying. For what it is hype, I think it's really good, just because of the fact that it's built really, really solidly. When I was looking at the calibration documents, it barely had to have any fine tuning done from the early 1960s up until 1980 something when they decommissioned it. In all that time, they were adjusting it by maybe 1%, 2%. Yeah, they've at least, this is the nice thing of this, at least it's like one of those things, if they've taken it out, they've at least, plugged it properly. It's not like there's a gaping hole. And I said it's also like, on this one, because it's not got the probe inside, it's got a plastic insert with a cap, rather than having just a gaping hole there, where water or whatever could get in, or contaminants. So what they've done is put a little storage bin in there where you could keep batteries or whatever, and that locks on, so it's a proper little bit there. All right, Flash Up. So I guess you could store some whatever you wanted in their specimen jars or whatever. Which one's a PDR63? Let me look it up. I know what the DP63 is, but what's a PDR63? Portable Radiac. Oh, well, that's really cool. I mean, they never go for sale in the UK. I've seen those for sale in a very expensive price being exported from America. It's got a good range, but I don't really know if it's worth $500 in all honesty. Because again, what's the range on it? It goes to like thousands of rads. It comes with different GM tubes, doesn't it? I mean, it's a nice set if you get the counter, loads of GM tubes and everything. So it's a rad an hour one, and it's got a very big range, hasn't it? Don't get me wrong, it looks like a very nice counter, but I don't think anything not digital I would pay that much for. You know what I mean? It's just because with the amount of very high-end digital counters you can get now, you could probably get a basic spectrometer, couldn't you, for like $500? I don't know yet, Brandon. Like I said, there's 100 Rontgen per hour as the capacity, but I don't know about like overload to the point it cuts out. As I said, what we can find out, if I flick that on, is if the plasma ball... Oh, I'll knock that tinsel out of the way before it starts a fire or does some dodgy shit. Yeah, right. Let's see how well does this work. Right, the case properly shields it. It's not getting a false reading there. Let me see with that open. Does that give a false reading? No, the plasma ball doesn't interfere with it at all. It's shielded enough for the case. So essentially, this is one of those Geiger counters that you won't get false readings on through electromagnetic interference, whatever. It's a scintillator, not a Geiger, Dominic. I can't remember the actual name, but it measures micro Rontgens in second. So it's like, you know, micro Rontgens per second. And the highest dose it does is basically 1 millirontgen per second. So if you have 1 millirontgen in a second, is the highest dose. There's 3,600 seconds in an hour. It maxes out at 3.6 Rontgen. Although technically the top of the meter, just like the needle goes off the scale at basically 3,000 millirontgen, which is 3 Rontgen. But technically you can work out it's at least 3.6 Rontgen because of the seconds in an hour. Let me look up Soviet scintillators and I might be able to tell you what the model was. It's a scintillation counter, and it's not the one I have. It's a grey plastic one, if that helps. But it's not the model I've got and done videos on. They're pretty expensive. There was a video the other day with somebody using it on a DP3 source. Soviet scintillator micro Rontgen. Let me type in micro Rontgen and see if it comes up. Right, I don't know. I think Hype knew the name of it. But yeah, there was a video I watched yesterday on the DP3 source with it being used on that. It's basically a grey scintillator, which counts in micro Rontgens. I can never remember the name of it. They now and again turn up on eBay and Etsy, but they can be bloody expensive when they come up. Let me just search Soviet scintillator and just see if there's any on eBay. There's lots of components for them on eBay, but none of them are actually currently on there. I can't remember what its actual name was. I can probably find out for you pretty quick. Let me go on my watch history, and I've probably watched a video on one. And I might be able to translate it if the person who uploaded it actually mentioned what it was. But they might not have done. That's the other problem. Because often with videos, people don't mention, do they, what they're actually... All right, if I translate the name of this video, because again, there's no actual description to this video. Let's see if it's in the name of the video. Detect language to English. Measurement of radioactive CI from DB2. The device is called the SRP6801. So the name of the device is this. This is the Chernobyl Geiger counter or scintillator. There you go. That's the name of it. Google that. And you should see videos of it or pictures. And it's the one that maxes out at 3.6, basically. It's definitely going to be one of those, I should think. How much are they on eBay? Let's have a look. I have a feeling I'll have a look before they've been bloody expensive. And I think Hype said the other day he looked for one, they were really expensive. Right, none currently showing up on regular eBay. I'm not going to even bother checking Etsy and everywhere else. Yeah, the highest scale is 1 millirontgen per second, so therefore 3.6 rontgen per hour. Yeah, they don't mention, do they, which the scintillator or the counter was from the safe that had the 1,000 rontgen capacity, but that one doesn't have a 1,000 rontgen capacity, but I don't know what, those are. But yeah, in terms of robustness, it's the DP series, isn't it, which is way better. But obviously scintillators are a much more specialized bit of equipment. Obviously, when they say it maxed out 200 rontgen, that will be a DP5 or whatever, because nearly all of the Soviet era ones, well, I suppose it could have been any of the kind of military ones that maxed out at, because I know the DP5 was the most common, but they also had the DP2, didn't they? And I think the DP4 was 200 rontgen as well as the max. Okay, yeah. Like now and again, I know stuff like that goes on sale, but I wouldn't pay too much for it. I mean, it'd be cool having a scintillator, wouldn't it, that maxes out at 3.6 rontgen just for the lols of it. But yeah, I wouldn't pay silly money for it. And I said, if I was paying like money for it, I'd also want it to come with its Cobalt 60 check source, which is a pretty weak check source because it's for a scintillator, What are you looking at? Of course, there's not a bomb behind me. You build a new sofa. I'm all right, Planes. We had to go bloody shopping earlier for a fridge freezer. And when we were in the shop, nearly all the ones we like the look of, no, that's been sold out and we don't know when they're coming in due to Brexit. We don't know when it's coming in due to Brexit. We don't know when it's coming in due to Brexit. We don't know when it's coming in due to Brexit. We eventually found one, but, it's that really annoying thing of, no, don't talk like that at the moment. You've been warned. I assume when you say game, you mean gamma, do you, Max? But yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. Scintillators, unless you're buying like brand new manufactured ones at very high prices, are pretty hard to get. I've got 2 scintillation tubes technically. I've got an alpha scintillation, which is pointless if you've got an alpha mica Geiger counter anyway, because alpha doesn't, you gamma spectrometer. Yeah. Alpha doesn't travel very far, so the scintillator isn't really going to have much advantage there. And the other one I've got is an old Soviet gamma one, but because the crystals and some of the electronics need changing and I've never got around to doing it yet, it's less sensitive than the Geiger counter because of how old and useless it is. I assume its crystal's quite damaged, I imagine. But yeah, the fact that I've got a gamma scintillator that is less sensitive to gamma than regular Geiger counters is a bit, worrying in that regard. Well, not worrying, but makes it completely useless as an item. It works in the sense that if you put it very, very close to something giving off gamma, the needle moves. But right, Crystal, we're mostly just talking about Soviet Geiger counters. Actually, it was Swiss Geiger counters, wasn't it? Technically, the stream started off as. But yeah, when I do the video on it later, I will try a load of check sources of it because I'm very interested in how high you can expose that one to beta before it cuts out. Because if technically the top GM tube is a beta sensitive tube all the way up to 100 rontgen, that is really cool. I think there are Russians, aren't there, Max, technically, that denied Chernobyl happened, or they said the Americans blew it up, that sort of thing. Or, I mean, you get the weird people who claim it wasn't that bad. Chernobyl wasn't bad at all. It was just like a minor accident. I mean, you get the kind of 2 opposite problems in nuclear. You get the people who are so pro-nuclear that they'll cover up anything which went wrong with the nuclear industry at all, which is really, really bad because it makes it look like you're hiding stuff because you are. And then you get the people who have no clue how nuclear works and think it's like the devil where, every power plant emits radiation that kills children or something, because it's amazing how many people don't realize nuclear is a green energy source. But you know what I mean? Green energy sources in, you're not actually putting loads of carbon dioxide or whatever into the air or other sort of pollutants. But yeah, that's the problem I have with channels like Thunderfoot, especially as his channel's gone on longer, you know, because I guess he's still trying to be relevant. He does that thing where he'll keep saying stuff like, "Oh, Chernobyl wasn't bad. The series made it look like it was serious. Only like 30 people died, so I don't know why people think Chernobyl was even important. Let's stop talking about it." Yeah, now I'm sure more people die from coal pollution all the time hype than nuclear do. Especially actually coal mining. Coal mining is a really kind of dodgy job. You know, obviously I've got a lot of respect for people who are really poor and have to do coal mining in a sense, but you know, you keep constantly hearing about, you know, coal mine collapses or carbon monoxide poisoning. But yeah, it's like Chernobyl was a very serious disaster. We have learned lessons from Chernobyl. You know, the entire nuclear industry has. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I think wind's quite good in some way, hype, especially when it's done offshore. Like, there are still problems with wind, obviously. But in Britain, nearly all of our energy comes from wind now, or a massive percentage of it. But you still keep getting people in Britain who are like, "Oh, wind is a waste of energy. We shouldn't use it," you know. And they never propose alternatives. Just no, we can't have wind. Wind power. I want to see if I can find the specifications. Britain is the sixth largest wind power producer in the world after China, the USA, Germany, India, and Spain. In 2017, 15% of the UK's entire electricity was generated from wind power. And I know in 2020 it's a hell of a lot better than that. There's a Wikipedia article that's more up to date. Right, assuming that this is correct, as of 2019, it was 21% of our total electricity, and I think it's higher now than it was then. Okay, yeah, they're apparently building even more wind farms out to sea. The 2020 is just quoting the 2019, but yeah, apparently that's hype. There was a farmer somewhere not too far from here because he kept having to battle the planning permission people because, you know, it was a bit of an eyesore. But he put up a giant wind turbine on his farm, and apparently now he's like laughing in money, you know, because he's got like all of his electricity every year paid for regardless. And apparently he's selling so much back to the grid, you know, he's making like probably several grand a month off of that wind turbine. I know it was like obviously quite a big initial setup and everybody moaned about it, but, you know, good on him. He's got a wind turbine, he's making money off of it. I forgot to put slow-mo, didn't I? Or people that spam get blocked. And that isn't even a proper question. I can't tell if you're being serious or not, Vod. I mean, the problems with wind, obviously, is the initial cost of making it and like manufacturing and putting it up sort of costs. And birds flying into it and killing birds, you know, and stuff like that. And it's a bit of an eyesore. But wind is free energy in a sense. We're not going to use up all the wind. That's like saying if we have solar panels, we'll suck up all the light from the sun and we'll all die. I mean, there's loads of different cool ways of making energy, isn't there, Dominic? I mean, like hydroelectricity is cool, especially if you've got somewhere it will work. Yeah, that's the sort of problems with a lot of these things, Max. I guess as time goes on, we'll learn how to do stuff like that better. But again, it's like with nuclear. The more research put into nuclear, the more fuel recycling you can do, you know, and the less of an impact it makes. Right. It's hard to tell though, Vod, because you get people like Trump who actually legitimately think wind power does like really bad things to the earth. Because have you heard that one? He's like, I know a lot about wind. It's like wind is very wasteful, or whatever he says. I'll see if I can find a quote and read it in Trump's voice because it's kind of amazing. You know, it's kind of one of those things which you think is a joke. Is it this one? I never understood wind. Trump goes on bizarre tirade against wind turbines. Here we go. I've studied it better than anybody I know. The president inserted in a bizarre segment from a weekend speech to young conservatives in West Palm Beach, Florida. I never understood wind. You know, I know windmills very much. They're noisy. They kill birds. You want to see a bird graveyard? Go under a windmill someday. You'll see more birds than you've ever seen in your life. What else has he said? They're made in China and Germany mostly. But they're manufactured tremendous. But they're manufactured tremendous if you're in. Yeah, this is the fucking thing, because it doesn't even make sense reading it. But they're manufactured tremendous if you're into this. Tremendous fumes. Gases are spewing into the atmosphere. You know, we have a world, right? So the world is tiny compared to the universe. So tremendous, tremendous amount of fumes and everything. Yeah, that was a Trump thing about wind. I'll post a quote in so you can actually see what I read out, because I know this is the thing. Nick Abbott kept taking the piss out of him for quite a while, until, you know, he lost the election, and then, I mean, that's a source of humour. He also says, and this is quite relevant to Trump, you'll see why. You see all those windmills, they're all different shades of colour. They're like sort of white, but one is like an orange white. It's my favourite colour, orange. Yeah, we know it's his favourite colour because he dyes his fucking face orange. There you go. See if you can make sense of this quote. Oh, the quote's too long to post into YouTube, so let me half it and then put the other half in. I don't know, Hype. I mean, you'd have to ask Trump, because, you know, I don't think Trump. Fuck's sake, it's deleting the wrong bit of the thing I want to delete. Right, so that's part one. And then part two of it, if I get the second part of his quote up. Did it end at right? Where I put that? Yeah. There we go. But they're manufactured tremendous if you're into tremendous fumes. Gases are spewing into the atmosphere. You know, we have a world, right? So the world is tiny compared to the universe. So tremendous, tremendous amount of fumes and everything. Yeah, that's why it's his favourite colour, Dominic. Orange is my favourite colour. I think you should inject the bleach. Yeah, it's treason then. That was the same thing with solar, wasn't it, Richard? Yeah, it's a lot of that stuff. It's when the stuff's first invented, it's a false economy because the price of manufacture doesn't lead to a very good product. But as, you know, the research and everything gets better and better, they get better and better. It's like solar now. Compared to how solar used to be, it's so much better. And again, it's getting better over time, you know. Yeah, I really don't know, Nick. And the thing is, I'd have voted for Trump over Hillary, but still, it's some of the stuff he comes out with. I assume the only thing I legit think he could be saying, to give him the benefit of the doubt, is the factories producing the wind turbines make a lot of pollution. He didn't say that, did he? He literally said the wind turbines make the fumes, and the world is tiny and the universe is big. I mean, that bit's true. It's a bit like, I'm now imagining the Universe song from Monty Python and the Meaning of Life being sung by Trump. I'll be off in a few minutes, by the way. Monty Python Universe song. Or Galaxy song, whatever it's called. I want lyrics. I don't want like a very, very clever fact check of the song. Whenever life gets you down, Mrs. Brown, and things seem hard or tough, and people are stupid, obnoxious, or daft, and you feel that you've had quite enough, just remember that you're standing on a planet that's evolving and revolving at 900 miles an hour, that's orbiting at 19 miles a second, so it's reckoned a sun that is the source of all our power, but that's fake news. But yeah, that would be how Trump would sing it. Because really it's tremendous and makes a lot of waste. I know waste. You have to see, Mike, if there's any of those text-to-speech Trump things and put the entire lyrics in. I can't quite want to see how that sounds. Well, he knows everything about wind. Yeah, that is cool, Max. That's something good, isn't it, to look forward to? Going back to the moon, you know, because everything on this planet's fucked. Let's go to the moon. Do you mean big iron rather than bug iron? I don't know what bug iron is. What's according to Jeremy Clarkson, Class 2 instructor? I mean, he could do hype. It seems a bit pointless, doesn't it, to use one source of fuel to generate electricity that way? Yeah, big iron on his hip. But no. Well, don't make me think of Trump and big iron at the same time. He had a very big iron. It was the best big iron. In his town there lived an outlaw by the name of Texas Red. He was a very bad man. Very bad. Terrible. The worst. Yeah, we were on about the amazing Swiss Geiger counter I bought from the Germans. Well, that makes sense. And like I said, I'm not an expert. I'm not like Trump, because I'm not an expert. Because Trump's an expert. He's a very smart man. He knows everything. I don't. That's the difference. I'll put my hands up. I don't know anything about gas turbines. I'll be completely wrong if I talk about them. Unlike Trump, who knows everything about gas turbines. Yeah, that's getting better though with electric cars. But yes, I have a petrol car and I don't care because I've got a fuel efficient petrol car and it's good enough for me. Germans never got into Switzerland, Max. The Germans were scared of the Swiss, although Hitler did describe the Swiss as like the worst kind of subhuman or something. So apparently Hitler hated the Swiss more than he hated the Jews. I mean, I suppose because the Swiss are like Germans, but better. That's probably the reason, isn't it? But, because Trump thinks too much of himself, Brandon, that's why. Oh, gas turbines like what they've got on the M1 Abrams hype. And was it the T80 that used gas turbines? I do know what they are then, now, if I think about it. It's kind of like having an engine, isn't it? But it's a turbine engine on a tank or whatever, as opposed to I know you could obviously build bigger ones to do different things, but is that the same thing? Is it that kind of gas turbine that use like liquid fuel or whatever to cool. I do know what you're on about then, sort of, but I wasn't thinking of them as like a normal power source. I was thinking of them of vehicle power sources. But didn't the Russians stop using them just because of the maintenance of them and that, where like a regular diesel engine ends up being just a lot more easy to use? Yeah, for most people, if we think of the two countries, no offense to the Germans, if I think of well-designed products, the Swiss generally beat the Germans. As much as everybody goes, oh, the Germans make such good stuff. The Germans can make good stuff, but they over-engineer everything. Like this thing, compared to the German Strahlenberger Act, is really, really solid. And it's smaller. And it works properly. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny it didn't happen, Stug. I mean, alternative history. How about they start a war on another front while they're fighting the Soviet Union fighting Switzerland? And then the Swiss are the first to Berlin. That's the Swedish, isn't it, Dominic? Like IKEA, the furniture. The Swiss is like chocolate, watches, and overcomplicated guns. That's interesting. The thing is, I've never really thought about ships because I know some ships have nuclear power, don't they? But I never really think about that sort of stuff. In all honesty, ships are cool, but I just for some reason never think about ships all that much because I'm not an expert on ships. Yeah, that makes complete sense. So yeah, you're using an engine, but rather to propel something, you're using it to make power. That makes total sense. Using a turbine like that, I guess. But again, there's all pros and cons of everything, isn't there? Wait until somebody makes a perpetual motion ship that uses like hydroelectricity to push it forwards. All right, see you, Vod. Have you seen, Stug? It's really fascinating, but I can never find these videos when I actually want to look them up. Some of the Swiss training films from during the Cold War, like how they planned to fight the Soviets if the Soviets decided they were dumb enough to invade Switzerland. If it's cheap enough, Thomas, it's worth it. It depends how cheap it is. Because if they're expensive, then no. If it's cheap, then yes. But I don't know what you mean by is it the oh my god. The Pumagor, I don't know what you mean by that. But yeah. The interesting thing was, I was watching this thing, right? And they literally had these mountains where they had trench after trench after trench cut into the mountains, where they could easily basically retreat from one of the trenches into the next one up. And the trenches were designed so you couldn't shoot up with them with defensive cover, but you could shoot down. So basically it was designed so you would literally be chasing an enemy up a mountain where none of your tanks or troops could get up, and they literally could shoot down at you. And then when you were going to overrun one trench, they could retreat from it, like basically block you out, get into the next trench and shoot down on you. Yeah, it's quite interesting, all that stuff. The thing I find really interesting, Hype, is the multi-fuel engines the old British Chieftain tanks had, because you could literally apparently pour anything slightly combustible in them and it would run the engines. Unfortunately, they weren't very reliable engines. But in theory, they were really cool, because the idea was that, normally you'd run them on proper fuel, like either diesel or petrol, or kerosene or whatever. But, I thought it was quite interesting that the idea was that you could put vodka or, like, chip oil in it, and it would actually run the tanks. What do you love about Britain weapon gadget reviews? I don't know if there is much to love about Britain. An Israeli civilian mouse probably could fit a teen, in all honesty. Which model of Stahlhelm? World War I Stahlhelms, no. Gave better head coverage, but made from crap steel. I think it was either the M38 or M40 German Stahlhelm, which was the actual good one. The problem is with a lot of German helmets is they made them from really, really cheap steel to, like, increase production runs. And then they didn't provide very good protection. So you had very good head coverage of a Stahlhelm. It was, like, the best, in theory, designed helmet. The problem was they cheaped out making them. So they made them from, like, really crap pig iron. Or, like, just really, really thin steel. Yeah, I suppose our history is more interesting than anything else. But I suppose if you're going to ask about British manufacturing or whatever. No, I do not have a kettle used in a tank. Yeah, it makes sense, doesn't it, Hype? It's a jack of all trades engine, master of none. Right, I'll see you then, Mike, for a bit. I might not be on all your stream, but I will watch a bit of it later. But again, it depends what comes up and how early I go to bed. No, and before I go off, Max, to answer your question, last of all, the Israel, I don't think, no longer issues masks, but I think you can buy them as a civilian over there. As in, like, they're priced pretty well if you want to buy one as a civilian, but I don't think they get issued them for free anymore. Probably because most of the countries near Israel now don't really pose a threat to them at all. Right, anyway, I'll be off. The M10 is atrocious. M10M is all right, but it's a cheek filter mask. That's the last thing I'm answering. Right, goodbye, everybody. Have a good day.